Hello, YouTube subscribers. Welcome to the home theater.
Welcome to the Smith's Home Theater. And in this style episode, what we're going to start doing is discussing movies that we watch, fight scenes of period pieces, and everything to do with sword and knife fighting, that kind of stuff. And just give you our thoughts on it, rate it, just give you our opinions on the stuff we watch. We love movies. Who doesn't? It's probably what got us into sword fighting in the first place.
Now, one of the funny things you're going to notice once you start getting into HEMA is it will ruin sword fighting in TV and movies forever. You will not be able to help yourself, but pick apart and find the flaws and, all the things that you were taught not to do. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to share with you. Pick it apart, break it down, what's good, what's not, historically accurate, and so forth. Now, the movie we picked tonight, we just happened to be watching Raw Boy the other night, and everybody knows the great big scene with Liam Neeson and Tim Roth at the end, but not many people pay as much attention to that earlier fight scene.
Will Guthrie versus Archibald. So we're going to talk about this fight scene because it has some actual value and has some value in describing two certain types of fencers. So when we look at Will Guthrie's character, the actor does a great job of portraying a buffalo. He sets it up in the previous fight, just a guy who's brutal, large shoulder cuts, just lots of strength, lots of power. He gets his way just through sheer strength and brutality.
Yeah. Like there isn't a lot of skill there. You can see all he's really doing is using strength. All of his shoulder cuts. There isn't any line control. It's just keep going and bulldoze right through them.
Yeah. The buffalo exists. This is a really good theatrical representation of what a buffalo fights like. Enter Tim Roth's character, Archibald. He's clearly the foppish, high-skilled, high-trained fencer. And although you don't see it until he gets a sword in his hand, during his first salute, you kind of get the idea of where this is going to go.
Yeah. Tim Roth does an absolutely amazing job of making us hate him. I'm serious. Did a wonderful, wonderful job. But all you want to do when you beat Archie is punch him in the face.
Yeah, I mean, except that he clearly has lots of skills and he'll probably open your belly with his sword. I'd say looking at the sword, maybe it's accurate. From the examples I've seen on Fagan Arms, I would probably say probably not. But, I mean, there's definitely theatrical license to this weapon. But Tim Roth does really well with it. He uses it beautifully, lots of cutting actions, more than I would expect. But, I mean, this is not a duel to the death. It's clearly a duel for money. It's not they're trying to kill each other. So, I mean, I think he does a good job of telling the story in this way.
No, very much so. And as far as historical accuracy goes in the style of fighting, it is a movie. So you're going to see a lot of really big motions. It's not as tight as you would expect a real fight to be, but that's more so, entertainment value so that, the rest of us can follow what's going on.
So now we start looking at the way he moves the rapier. He does a pretty good job. I want you to consider that this is 1995. The HEMA community is in its proto stage. There's really no high skill fighters out there at this point, right? These are mostly people doing manuscript work, trying to figure out how stuff is working. And Rob Roy comes out, and it probably was the best. I remember when it came out. Now I'm really dating myself here, and I mean it probably was the best sword fighting scenes I'd seen to date.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Considering the resources they had at their disposal, it is actually a really good fight, considering that they didn't really have a lot to go on.
Now, the choreography is done by William Hobbs, who's done a lot of things of note, like fan favorites like Willow, pretty big fan favorite movie, right? Count of Monte Cristo, and a lot of others. He has and Othello. So, I mean, he has quite a long resume, a storied resume of decent choreography. So, this, I mean, is no exception. Now, with that said, we look at the historical accuracy to the fight, and there's a lot of uncovered thrusts, a lot of quick pokes, quick jabs, right? It's clearly, but at the same time, is it accurate? I would say probably it's a little more accurate than people would like to admit it is. And why? Because this is the skilled fencer taunting and provoking the buffle.
He does a really good job of sort of maintaining his initiative. His attacks are done well, and they just keep going. He has his opponent Guthrie on the defensive and running scared, it looks at some points.
Yeah. And then he defends the cuts expertly. Two entirely different fighting styles. I mean, so you're going to have some kind of mismatch there too. One guy has basically very low swordsmanship ability versus a person of high swordsmanship ability. So some of these techniques are going to be quick jabs and working to throw a common fencer off of his game. So let's go even deeper in the fight scene. You see some things. There's definitely a few flaws in the way they use the sword. One of the key flaws, I would say, is that draw cut scene, which you and I both cringed at.
Yeah, where they come into a clinch and Guthrie reps and tries to grapple with Archie, and Archie gets out of it by slicing him across the belly. Slicing with a rapier, especially at that range, not going to do a whole heck of a lot.
To the torso, nonetheless. Mm-hmm. You don't see that in the manuscript. I'd say that is the scene's big flaw. But other than that, it was pretty good. The scene where he dodges a blow, he's so arrogant, he walks away from the guy, he taunts him with his arrogance, and of course turns his back. Very insulting to another fighter. But he knows he outclasses him in terms of skill by magnitudes. So what happens? Guy comes through, Guthrie charges, makes his cut, and Tim Roth, the actor for Archibald, does a great job, just steps out of the way and hits him in the back of the occipital lobe, back of the head, with the sword, knocks him to the ground. Remember, it's not a fight to the death. He's not there to kill him. He's there to essentially just defeat him for his patron. Yeah,
and the thing of it is, a blow to the back of the head is quite often sufficient to drop you to your knees. So, I mean, as far as realism goes, there is a good chance that would have been successful.
Especially a hard hit with a steel sword. So if we go for historical accuracy, I mean, is it historically accurate? It's debatable. I would say it's still better than most of the rapier fights you see out there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for historical accuracy in film, probably pretty good. So we look at entertainment value. I thought it was quite an entertaining fight. It did a good job of telling the story. It set the stage to further the story, which is exactly what a good fight scene should do. Yeah, like all in all, I can recommend checking this scene out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, especially considering that this is a 25-year-old scene. Still holds up.
So this is the end of the first episode from the Smith's Couch. If you have any ideas or suggestions for things you would like to see us review,
drop it below.
Absolutely. Just drop it in the suggestion box and hopefully you'll see it here soon.
If you have a better name, even better. It's the best one we can come up with in the last hour.